So it's like copy nothing.
And then I was like, what are you?
And then Elon immediately, do you sell cars? Question mark. Because the ad was so terrible. Jaguar sales have been cut in half. And the rebrand has been an absolute debacle. It doesn't mean that it was all from this. Things have been going awry for a minute. It was just the nail in the coffin. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. With me, as always, is Mark Goldheart. Mark, how are you doing this afternoon?
Good. I had this weird glue that was on my can.
Do you know I was watching like a?
Why is that?
It's probably from the packaging. Like, you know, those come in like cardboard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes that cardboard has glue on it. That's happened to me before. I was watching a video where this guy will put certain things under the microscope to see how clean they are.
Oh, and they're really gross.
And one of the things he did was like, if you were to just like get a can from like a cool like,
how
and I
gross
was
they are?
pretty disgusted with it. I had never really thought about it.
Good immunity builder.
Yeah.
Got to get some immunity.
What's going on this week? Any news for us to tackle?
Yeah, Forbes is reporting that Meta aims to have all ad buying
in-house
dictated by AI.
Yeah.
By 2026.
Mostly for what I've read is small businesses. Small businesses will not have to have agencies.
That's what they claim, yeah.
Yeah. They'll be able to do the creative. They'll be able to do
anyone who's dealt with Meta long enough knows that every time you give the reins to Meta,
trouble
ensues.
follows.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because they're trying to maximize profit for Meta, which, you know, there are some mutual benefits there.
Yeah.
Like to try to get the best performance and maximize profits for Meta.
Yeah.
But not always.
Sure.
Which I think is why the auction system like needs coercing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Like I think the targeting is pretty good, but the auction system needs some coercing.
Yeah, so that'll be very interesting, right? I do think that it's going to be great.
I don't think it'll end up happening personally. I think it'll be like PMax with Google. PMax started, it was all, hey, let us optimize everything, which quickly turned into, oh, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
To now there's a lot more controls within PMax and you can kind of do things a little different, but you still have to supplement PMax and Google with just regular campaigns.
Sure.
So
yeah, I think that it will be helpful for those businesses that are just getting off the ground who need to run ads.
I think so too.
They have no money.
Yeah.
I get people all the time on TikTok who are messaging me, hey, can you help me?
Also, what this means for creative,
I don't have.
It means you're going to need 10 times more creative output.
Sure. Yeah.
And dynamic AI created stuff and more variations with your catalog ads. So.
But we're going to run into this. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this.
I've been saying this for 5 years. Like eventually they're going to try to take away control under the guise of privacy.
Yeah.
Which don't buy it. Anyone, if you're listening to this, Meta does not care about your privacy.
No.
So they don't care about privacy at all. But they're going to try to do something like that because it's going to be advantageous for them. In the name
of privacy.
Yes. Yeah. It's advantageous for them to take away controls because they're probably missing out on some profit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Right? The better efficiency you have in Meta,
the worse.
If I'm just looking at this from like a pure cynical perspective, it's not really like this.
The more efficient your business is, the less money they make.
The less cut they get.
Yeah.
So.
And they might look at it as, okay, the more efficient you are, the more money you're going to spend. And so you can kind of look at it in the same way. Like,
but the cynical perspective
margin,
is.
Yeah. I understand.
Technically, for every purchase that comes through at $5, if Meta could make that 10,
they just doubled.
That's a lot of depending on what
and then you times that by however many people. Yeah.
So anyways,
we'll see.
Business is hard, everyone.
Business is hard.
Welcome to Business 101. Business is hard.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone tell you that it's easy. It's not.
So, interesting discussion I want to bring up today that I think will maybe dictate the conversation. So I want to say it was, how many months ago was it? It was, I think I have it right here. Back in, November. So what are we? November to December, January, February, March, April, May. So we're 6 months into this. Jaguar, the car company.
Which, if we go back, we both, I believe, were quite adamant that it was going to wreck them.
Yeah, I mean, and that wasn't like, holy cow, Trevor and Mark are brilliant. I think a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying we're the only ones,
for sure.
but we did say,
yeah,
this is just a bad move. Everyone knows it.
I created a big TikTok that I think got some good. I'll have to look here really quick.
There was no, we thought it might be a hoax.
Yeah, it almost seemed
like it was so bad that it was actually a joke. And then they were going to unveil like the real new brand.
Yes.
Like, of course, we're not going to get rid of all of our iconic.
Yeah, it was like an April Fool's, but in November almost. Because it was so crazy. Let's see. Yeah, it got like 10x the amount of views on my Instagram than anything else.
Yes.
That. So
and when was that?
November 18th. So and I probably made the TikTok, the video a couple days later, I'm sure. But essentially so the world, whoever's listening, and we'll have to pull in some clips so that you can show this. It was like the stereotypical audience for Jaguar was like 50 plus year olds with a household income of over $300,000. Not necessarily conservative people, but luxury, country club-esque. That was the Jaguar audience, right? And they essentially went like very trying to think the best way to say this without it being political.
They just went very millennial,
more Gen Z. Like,
I don't even know if I'd say Gen Z. I mean, because technically Gen Z is skewing politically, at least
a little more
conservative. But maybe the creative aspect. But it was very.
It was very
new age, millennial,
modern, very much tied to the younger audience.
Yeah, like very liberal.
Yes, yeah, liberal is a great way to kind of very interesting. Completely different from the audience that they had built for the last 60 years.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
like went from
we're I'm trying to get out of like a political lingo because I don't think it was necessarily political, but it was like it just you go from Jaguar is a elegant luxury brand for rich people, and it it was like always centered around more of a masculine identity.
Yeah.
Right? Not feminine identity at all. Very masculine identity.
Yep.
Right? Like you had the Jaguar, like the prowl logo. You had, they always were dark interiors, like the actual logo was like gold, like depends on like what decade, but it was either like gold or silver or black.
The coolest emblem of any luxury vehicle.
Arguably.
By
it's
far.
Very cool.
Like it sticks out. It's not like plush or
like and they left it. Yeah. And it was, so anyways, they went from that to teal. that's all you have to say is like they went from black, gold, and silver to teal.
Yeah.
And they got rid of the actual Jaguar for just like a lowercase J.
Yeah. I feel like we're not even doing it justice. So hopefully we get some videos. It was terrible. Everybody just blew it up online. So
terrible, especially because of who their audience
that was more
and will always be.
Yeah. It was less about the brand.
Yeah.
Like, and sure, like visually it wasn't great, but I've seen plenty of visually non-great brands that crush it. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was the total disregard for an audience.
Well, and the only audience that's ever bought a Jaguar.
Yeah. And Jaguar does tend to be on the lower end of the luxury cars, right? I can't remember.
I don't know if
which,
it's lower end. I think it's comparable with like a BMW.
No, I don't mean quality. I mean popularity. Sorry.
Yes.
Popularity. Yeah. Of all of them, and I want to say BMW is maybe number one.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, because you do have luxury is interesting because you have luxury and then you have like ultra.
Yeah.
Like Bentleys.
Sure.
Or like Beamers aren't Bentleys.
Right. Yeah. Like Maseratis.
And then you have like Acuras
that are like
and
high performance. Yeah. Anyway.
So Lexus, like those are like hot, like almost like lower luxury.
Yeah.
And then Jaguar is in the realm of like, Mercedes.
Yeah, Jaguar, Mercedes, Porsche. So the point is they do this terrible rebrand. Everybody predicts it's going to fail and they like double down on it hard. I mean, millions and millions of people, like, especially on TikTok, just blew it apart from regular, like, average Joe's people who just do like news updates to Jaguar audiences to be like, I cannot believe you're doing this, to people like us who are like, hey, we're marketing experts and let me give you a take on something that was so crazy. Like hundreds of millions of views on this. And they double down and say, we don't care. And I remember like one of the most epic tweets that somebody put out was Elon Musk tweets, you sell cars? ? So no, do you sell cars? So it was their slogan was copy nothing. See that?
Yeah.
So it's like copy nothing.
And then it was like, what are you?
And then Elon immediately, do you sell cars? ? Because the ad was so terrible.
Well, like it showed an ad, like a car at the very
fashion.
end.
It looked like Paris Fashion Week, just crazy fashion.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so anyways, the reason why we're bringing this up is because 6 months later, it's been reported that Jaguar sales have been cut in half. And the rebrand has been an absolute debacle. And they are now in the hunt. It's speculated. I could probably do a little bit more research. We could probably look this up in AI. But it's speculated that they're now looking for a whole new like marketing agency team. So it'll be very interesting to see what they're going to do. So why do we bring this up?
Well, because it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to take this conversation a few different ways, but the way I looked at it, and when I saw this article a few days ago, and I thought, we probably should talk about this because this is a mistake. Now, Jaguar's mistake was worldwide, global disaster, right? At least
90% of the sentiment was this is horrible.
Well, and 50% of your sales, right? And to be fair, the metric I'm talking about is over the last 2 years, it's been cut in half. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean that it was all from this. Things have been going awry for a minute for these guys. It was just the nail in the coffin. Okay. So every now and then you have these big brand things where, like, for example, Bud Light and the Dylan Mulvaney thing, like that was this, whether you agree with it or not, that was such a big thing that hurt their brand. Like there's these things where you start to, when you cater to a new audience, oftentimes catering to a new audience means that you are leaving behind the old one. It's not always the case.
Yeah, but yes, you're right. And going back to Jaguar, I think what we need to identify in this like case study here is one of the big mistakes they made is they were assuming the younger generation doesn't grow up.
And they have the money to buy a car like that.
And they have the money to buy. So you're trying to appeal to a younger generation when your brand is more luxury.
Yeah.
Like if I remember right, like they still have really good performance, but their performance isn't quite as great as like a Mercedes. But they are more luxurious if I remember right.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, like you're doing this like luxury brand. Like who's buying luxury? It's usually older people.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason being is because they have the money
the money for it.
Right.
And it's a status symbol.
Yeah.
Like once you're able to reach a certain status symbol, a lot of these older people who grew up, you know, seeing those Jaguars in their neighbors' driveways or garages and loving them, like they grow up, they want one. So you're trying to appeal to a young generation, but it's like every generation when they're like our parents were in the 70s, like they were dressing in vibrant colors and all this. I'm like, that's not how they dress now.
Yeah. I'm looking up the average household income.
It's like once you hit 40, 50, like your style is not quite as vibrant as it was when you were 20. So the idea that you have to appeal to younger generations now seems like a big mistake because like you said, you're not like we're thinking of like you're leaving an audience behind, but like that audience is still there and it's still people are growing into that audience.
Yeah, totally.
So it's not like that audience is disappearing either. It's just like why like just know like if you're moving into a new audience, make sure that audience has the money to afford you, right? Or that you're actually going to appeal to them in some kind of way where they're going to want to spend the money with you. And is it worth it alienating a prior audience?
Yeah.
Because that's always just going to be the risk reward scenario. Like, and sometimes the risk reward is absolutely your old audience isn't going to get you to your new destination.
Sure.
So you got to bridge that gap in your branding strategy of, hey, this audience is great and we love them, but like there's the total obtainable market is just too small.
Right.
So we have to start expanding outside of that.
Totally.
But the caveat that we want to talk about is most people listening to this, like you're never going to be in that situation.
Sure. But every brand, I mean,
at least not in the next year or two.
By the way, the average household income for somebody who's under 30 years old is $45,000.
Yeah. So yeah,
right?
Good luck.
And there's no possible way that those cars are going to be under $45,000.
No.
Right. So yeah, many problems, but okay. So let's talk about this audience stuff here. Right. So let's say you're a brand. So we see this all the time. A brand hits $5 million and we look at, okay, there's this.
The real status symbol in 10 years will be having a vintage V8 Toyota.
4Runner?
No, a V8 like Sequoia or Tundra. Just just like a standard V8. They won't even make them anymore.
Yeah.
But those things go for 300,000 miles.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay,
And AI is going to just wipe out sedans. Like everyone's just going to want a self-driving car anyways.
Yeah. And people might not even have a car, right?
Yeah, there's a good question. Like the car market might completely collapse.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%.
Like the only car I'm betting on is Tesla because they're gonna have the robo cars. So in business, as we work with tons of different businesses, there are certain thresholds. There is the 0 to 100,000 threshold, right? So there's the 6-figure threshold. Then there's the 7-figure threshold, and then there's the Then there's mid 7 and then 8.
Yeah. And then there's the, like, how do I get to like 500 for 5 million? And then there's the 10 million. And then from 10 million, it's 50, it's 200.
Yeah, it's kind of like the mid, like 8, mid 8, 9. So,
everybody, I see it more on the 5 million plus is where people like hit a wall and they feel like they start to have to make big decisions.
Yeah, but oftentimes, sorry, am I butting in? Are you trying to make a point?
You might help make my point if feel free to jump in.
Well, I like where you're going because the brand, everyone often will be like, it's the brand. We hear it all the time. Like, do we need to rebrand or rename or like go after this audience? But what really is happening is like, you're just getting outside of your initial stronghold.
Yeah.
And there's really no reason to adjust. Like you don't even have to change ad channels oftentimes. You don't have to adjust anything. You just have to accept a new reality of growing.
This episode of The Unstoppable Marketer is brought to you by BFF Creative. Let's be real, hiring designers and video editors can get super expensive, and that's why I'm excited about what BFF Creative has done. They've built a subscription design service that gives you the feel of an in-house creative team but at a fraction of the cost, which I'm sure we all could use right now. From ad creatives to social media posts, video edits to full website designs, BFF gives you unlimited designs and unlimited requests starting at just $1,000 a month. The best part about this, their custom app makes it super easy to submit projects, give feedback, review work, and store all of your creative in one place. As a listener of the podcast, you get 25% off your first 2 months with code Unstoppable25. That means unlimited creative for as little as $750 a month. Go check them out right now at bffcreative.co. And here's one thing that I want to, you and me have always tried to, we don't do it a lot, but maybe internally we talk about this. Like, brands don't always have to grow.
Yeah, that's a great point. It depends on what your goal is as a business owner.
So yeah,
you don't have to grow. You don't always have to be growing 20%.
Yeah, I think there's this like stereotype, or there's this myth that if you're not growing every year to eventually sell, then you're going to be unsuccessful.
Yeah, here's a good example of that, and it's easy. Like, get out of the e-com bubble and think of like the plumber,
Yeah.
who owns a plumbing business that probably hasn't grown too much, but makes a great life, has a great lifestyle.
Yeah.
Earns really good money. If they're smart, they're probably investing it.
Pass it down to his kids.
Like
one day
you can do
whatever.
that in e-com too. Like, you don't have to have the next unicorn or the next darling. Like,
there is this weird thing in e-com. And listen, we make a living by people wanting to grow their businesses. So
yes. But we always advocate for healthy growth.
Yes, 100%. So that, there's this weird ethos in e-com that it's like, I need to be growing, like I need to be doubling my sales every year. And the only way I am going to be a successful entrepreneur is if I sell this company one day. But we know plenty of people, and some of you might even be listening to this, several businesses, not just one business, especially here in Utah.
Tons.
I can think of I can count on two hands. I can count 10 businesses, think of 10 businesses right now, who at one point were the darlings
of e-com. Yeah.
Making tons of money.
Growing super fast, going from like 1 million to 10 or 1 to 15 or 20.
And they ended up selling for next to nothing because they tried to grow and get their business in. They got their business in such a bad spot that they weren't growing profitably in a healthy way. And you can be making $15 million and only sell for $1 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on your brand equity.
Equity and
your EBITDA
revenue
and your profit,
and
whatever.
Yeah. So one, I want to just say, like, guys, think long and hard about what you want your business to be and what the outcome of your business should be.
Yeah, and I think we should be more clear. Like, when we say you don't have to grow, like, you do technically you always probably need to be growing because there's inflation. So like, you do need to grow.
For sure.
Like, we don't mean you literally don't have to grow.
Right.
What we mean is you don't have to fall into the trap of growing at the rates that you think you may need to grow at because of, this SaaS company grew or this other company did this. Like, you don't have to be comparing.
Yeah.
You just have to set realistic expectations and goals.
Yeah. So that's number one. Like, just set the right goals.
Yes.
And if you can double year over year and it doesn't hurt your family life and it doesn't strain you, physically and mentally and whatever, who's going to turn that down?
Well, it should strain you, but it shouldn't destroy you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Who's going to turn that down? I'm not going to turn that down, right? You wouldn't turn it down. So that's number one. Number two is, let's talk about audiences and how important the people are that got you to the point that you were.
Yeah, the biggest mistake, I think, is people think, again, the big mistake is you think you have to adjust what you're doing because growth starts stagnating. And the easiest thing to do is go, well, we just need a new, different kind of audience.
A new product that sells
to this audience.
Different people.
And the reality is just, in marketing terms, there's low-hanging fruit. And you're just kind of getting outside of lower hanging fruit.
Yeah. So
a good example of this is always going to be is always going to be like kid products. Looks like baby products or kid products or mom products or dad, like early mom products. Like we'll go early mom products because there's not a lot of stuff focused for like early dads.
Sure.
You know, like diaper bags aren't really advertised to dads, for example.
Sure.
But a lot of times, like what happens is we see brands go like, well, okay, I'm targeting these kids, these babies. So now I need to get into toddlers, and then I need to get into kids, and then I need to get into teenagers, and then I need to also sell things to the moms.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you can go down that route, but
Sure. Or
a lot of like you really tapped out all babies, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like you really tapped out all toddlers, like you really tapped out all.
Yeah. But what you don't understand is that there are some of these categories you start to think about, like, oh, let's take I like to use Cuts as an example. Not that Cuts is doing did something wrong here. No, let's use Madewell because I know that one, or
Like
no,
super flopped.
let's use Athleta because this one for sure flopped. Okay, so Athleta was a women's workout athleisure company.
So they naturally, let's go do men's too.
And they blew up. They rode the coattails of Lulu, and they blew up and got really, really big.
And they were like a more budget friendly option.
Maybe not by much. You know, it was just different.
Yeah.
You know, like I would say that Athleta got a little bit more into, like, you know, Lulu was very much like leggings, tops, and Athleta got into like sweatshirts, and like they almost introduced like a little bit more to the athleisure world.
Okay.
You know, but they launched a brand called Hill City, and Hill City was a menswear brand. And and your thought is very pure. Like the thought here is, oh, if we can do this with women, we should be able to do this with men. That's number one. And number two is, oh, if these women love their stuff for them, they'll love it for their husbands or boyfriends or sons.
Yes.
All fair, like relatively logical.
Yeah, but
thoughts.
probably not. They probably didn't do any market research for this.
But the problem is like when you've done all this research and when you've tested ads and copy and social media posts and merchandising and all this stuff for the female audience, tapping into an audience where, well, hey, these 10 brands already own this space, and now you're getting into a space that's already like, now you have to take resources from what you're doing well over here, right? Like you were crushing it on the up and up with women's, but then you had to take all this time, resource, money and put it over here to something that this probably took you forever to build, but you don't have the patience to build this. And so,
yeah, sometimes it is a patience game. Like, do you actually
Yeah.
have the patience to wait it through? But the other side is you have limited resources.
yeah,
And then on top of that, like, did you really tap out
there's no way.
women?
And the reason why we know that that's not the case is like,
There's a million other ones that have popped up.
yes. And listen, I know that Vuori or Lulu was selling to women and men, and they did a really good job at integrating it, right? But you want to know, Lulu didn't win because they started selling men athletic stuff. Lulu won because they started selling a pant no one else sold, like a daily. You're wearing them, a daily pant, and then their athletic wear.
Yeah, and
took
I've
off.
had these forever.
Yeah. So,
It was the ABC.
but guess who's not talking about Athleta anymore? Like they're not even on the, like,
Yeah, I don't hear about them.
no, like you've got Lulu and Vuori who dominate that space 100%. And then you've got a few others that are in there.
And so, yeah,
So-
going back, like we just see people in those spaces always assume, oh, if we want to grow faster, then let's expand. But like, you're not taking into consideration, the effort, right? And then also what I think is the bigger factor is the opportunity cost of allocating time
Time, budget, resources.
and resources into a new endeavor, which generally you have not even tapped out your current endeavor.
Not even close, right?
Right.
And there's certain brands that do.
Now,
right?
sometimes there's more competition and, but that's just life.
You saw
Yeah.
Apple do this like 5 years ago when they started introducing the S models of the phones. So those they were the cheaper version. So like Apple, who is one of the biggest.
I forgot about those.
Yeah. One of the biggest companies, because you're probably not the market for it.
Yeah.
Right. But they were, selling $1,000 phones. But does a teenager need $1,000 phone? Or somebody whose household income, right? But it didn't feel like they were going necessarily fully away from their ethos of what Apple is.
No, I don't think they did.
Right. So yeah, I like it. So so what should you do? Right.
Well,
if you're trying to grow and you're feeling stagnant.
Oftentimes the answer is just double down. More often than not. That's my hot take.
Okay, but hold on. Let me stop you.
Double down on the things that you're doing.
Let's hit double down. Okay. So Mark says double down, and I agree with this. But this is what happens, and this is why I think people are afraid to double down. We just experienced this with the client.
Well, again, when I say double down, it's with the expectation that your cost per acquisition is always going to go up.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to address, right? So, hey, my CAC was $50, and all of a sudden, overnight, I hit a wall, and now my CAC is $90. Does that mean I'm doing something wrong?
Sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes, but you have to have. Okay, let's put it this way: CAC is like measuring your BMI for health.
Okay.
Right? Like BMI is like an overall decent indicator of averages.
Yep.
But it's not an indicator of quote health.
No.
And it's actually oftentimes a very bad indicator.
Sure.
Of how healthy you are.
Right.
Like your BMI might be going up, whereas your health is getting much better,
Sure.
but you might be determined as unhealthy.
Right. Yeah.
By your BMI standards.
Totally.
Right? Like my brother's in the military, and I know that he was always considered obese by the military BMI, but of course he wasn't. He's like a CrossFit guy.
Super fit.
In really
super
good
cut,
shape, really good cardio.
Yeah.
But just for his size, he weighed more than what they claimed the BMI claims.
Right.
That's what looking at CAC is like.
Right.
Is
you should not look at it.
Hey, our CAC is going up. Okay, but what is the health of the overall business?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not just your CAC, right? It's what is your LTV doing, right? What is your profitability doing over time?
What is it? What is your AOV? Right? If your CAC goes up, but your AOV goes up, right? Like
your ROI.
That changes everything,
so,
right?
Yeah, so we just think you have to look at your overall profits, and then obviously what is the projection of those profits?
Yeah.
Based off of those cohorts coming through. So, and with the expectation that, look, guys, your CAC will go up, period.
Yeah.
As you grow, your CAC will start going up. It's just inevitable.
Yes. What your CAC is
because you're going to
today,
start outpacing. Oftentimes what happens is
the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, you start outpacing organic reach and word of mouth and everything else. So as you outpace all of that and your ads become the end all be all, which is some people are scared of that, but that's just every company operates like that. Right, by the way,
yeah.
Nike, any big company operates like this.
Yeah.
Right. So your end all be all is going to be, hey, ads are introducing, ads are reintroducing, ads are getting people back.
And when we say ads, we're not just talking digital, we're talking everything.
Everything.
Any money you're spending on getting attention. Yeah,
your CAC's going to go up, but that doesn't mean your business is in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Or that ads are in a bad spot.
And if you have an agency or if you because listen, we see this with agencies all the time. We
just talked about this with Cody with Kinship. You know?
We just parted ways with the client because they couldn't get over CAC thoughts. That was a huge.
Well, there was a misalignment. Yeah, sometimes there's misalignments with the expectation of growth.
Yep.
But the expectation of what CAC should or should not be.
Yeah. And there's a lot of fault on us, right? To maybe not set those expectations a little bit better.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Yep. But sometimes companies are under pressures to grow at certain rates for whatever reason.
Yeah, they might have investors that need X
And
amount
if they want to get there, you just got to realize like you're going to have to sacrifice things to get a certain growth rate.
Yes.
It's not just a silver bullet. You're not just going to like come up with an ad and
Yeah, you don't double ad spend and double sales.
no,
That's not how it works.
no.
So sometimes it does. If you haven't hit that low hanging fruit.
And sometimes over a longer time, it still works.
Yes,
but like you have to let
in the
things play out.
immediacy, it oftentimes does not. Right. So I think that's a huge lesson. So that's number one, right?
So if you want to grow,
CAC,
double down.
Yep.
But also to answer your original question, so we don't get too sidetracked with like the cat conversation, because we just had that, is know who your audience actually is. And if you're trying to go after a new audience, run the risk reward of using market research. There's tools like you can figure this out or hire someone to do this for you, because it will be worth, it's like an insurance policy. It's very worth it to hire a market research firm to do this for you.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, what are the risk rewards of going after a new audience, and how would that alienate all the people that I currently have?
Yeah.
And is it worth it to try to alienate them?
Have I even gotten close to tapping out?
Yeah, and what am I doing wrong with the current? Like, am I doing something wrong with the current audience where I'm no longer reaching them in the same way I used to be?
Yeah. No. Here. Let me add another situation to this. Let's take your new mom audience that you had kind of talked about, right? The thing about like let's say new moms, like how many babies are born? You know, like I don't know the answer.
I don't know.
Off the top of my head. You could probably
15 to 20 million a year.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
And that number's going down, right?
Well, no, number per couple is going down, but number of babies being born is not. Not.
So anyways, a lot of people look at that like 15 million, that's not a lot. You know, if I'm selling whatever to a new mom. But the way you can start to differentiate yourself and start to identify the right audience is understanding, this goes back to your market research.
Okay, so babies born is 4 million a year.
Okay. So
I was way off. 4 million a year.
So
that's a lot of babies though.
What you can do is you can start to do your market research to say, okay, how is the new mom changing? So you're not alienating moms in general, by saying, oh, I need to now go after grandmas, or, oh, I need to now go after single ladies, right?
And it is trending down to 3.5.
Yeah. So you instead can say, okay, what is the younger generation, right? If the average person, when I started my business 5 years ago, was 25 having a kid, now that, the 25 to 30-year-old, what are they having, 5 years ago, or what are they interested in? You can start doing some research to say, okay, hey, the Gen Z moms are now the people having babies, not millennials as much. So how do I create this product to tailor to her?
Like, because maybe my image is the millennial.
Yeah.
So you're always getting these people aging in and out.
Yeah. So that's one way you can do it. I think another way, and one way I want to not challenge, but maybe move the discussion as we say, hey, how do you grow when you're starting to tap out? What you actually could do is you could actually double down even harder on your audience. So you say double down, you kind of talked from a spend perspective. I'm talking from you can double down even harder into a segmented part of an audience. So if we're talking about,
can I just, I just want to emphasize something here.
Okay.
If you take the baby market at 4 million a year, let's just even sandbag it at 3.7 million. Right? Let's say a realistic expectation is to capture 10% of that market a year.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be 375,000.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say your AOV is 100. That's a $37 million business.
Yeah.
That's I'm not saying it's easy to capture 10% of market share, but
even 5%, right? You're sitting at a $17-18 million business a year.
Yeah.
Which people would go nuts for.
So again, that's what I'm saying is a lot of people will hit these thresholds and it's
yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. Once you start hitting 5 to 10% of total market share, then maybe you're luxury. So that's probably 5 to 10% of babies are going to
Yeah.
be born in higher income brackets.
Yeah.
So if you're luxury, maybe that is kind of where you do it. But like no one ever cares to look at what their actual market is.
Yeah.
Like people just make gut assumptions because things might be getting harder.
Well, what I was going to say is, let's just, since we're on the mom topic, right? If you're starting to see that your selling is, dipping, you could actually dip harder into the mom niche, right? And maybe you're going after the breastfeeding mom, right? Because there's a lot of discussion around breastfeeding versus bottle feeding versus both. You could maybe double down to the conservative mom, and that could actually help scale and grow your business, or the more liberal mom, or the whatever, right? Like there's these things that you can do that niches down even harder that could actually make you more money, even though you're cutting out your total addressable market.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Now, eventually that doesn't get you to
again, and again, you have to look at what your actual obtainable markets are. Like most people don't even know what their true market size is. Like if you look at the baby market, like that's kind of like, that's just newborns though.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at toddlers though, like that's kind of a 2-year gap. So that's more of like an 8 million market range. So like, can you capture 2% of that?
Yeah.
3%?
Yeah. So yeah, the point of the discussion is just like,
and is it worth it to alienate your past audience to get you to a bigger goal?
Yeah. And oftentimes the answer is,
oftentimes it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah. I mean, look what's happening.
Because you probably don't even have 1% or half a percent
like does the
market share.
Does the Jaguar brand come back from this?
If they're smart, they know how. It's going to be really easy. You just make something really badass, and that's that's all you have to do.
Yeah, I think that Bud
Light seems to have
they totally came back.
Seems to have come back.
Yeah,
they got Post Malone and
they even got Kid Rock.
That Shane Gillis guy.
Yeah,
and
they even got Kid Rock, who was like
against him.
Yeah, he was like the guy who was like, oh my, I cannot believe, because he's an outspoken conservative.
Yeah,
especially around woke stuff, and now even he's full team Bud Light. Same with UFC. Dana White. Bud Light is now a sponsor.
Oh yeah, they're sponsored
the
UFC.
Like they.
So I wonder if that boycott. I mean, it impacted them, but
lost them billions.
I don't know if anyone remembers anymore.
Yeah, lost them billions, but I have not heard anybody. We're probably we probably just opened up fresh wounds by me saying that. I
don't think anyone remembers.
So. But at the time they had lost like $6 billion.
Yeah.
Like overnight, it was like a $6 billion dip in their stock or whatever. It was crazy. It was crazy numbers, know? So.
Well, I think that's good.
Yeah. But there is a way to reverse it, which is people are forgiving. If you do it quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's elongated and it's years of it, right? That's why I'm very curious about Jaguar. We're 6 months deep. They're still doubling down. Beer costs a lot less to make than a car. So that could be like, they could be, they claimed it was a 2026.
Yeah, but you're talking like a brand. You can change the brand and keep the cars. Like their cars might still be really cool looking and really great.
And they do look kind of cool. Like they're very futuristic.
It's just toss the flimsy, colorful, youthful thing.
Yeah.
Because those aren't the people buying your cars.
Yeah. So figure out what you want your goals to be. I think that's the number one.
Whimsical. It's more whimsical.
Do you need to be growing 100% year over year? Maybe you took on some investment, and so yes, you do.
Yeah, and if you do, just set the right expectations.
Yeah. Then understand.
And actually look at, and again, if you're going to take on investment, look at your actual obtainable market and see if it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like, can you actually grow and can you actually capture X% of the share?
Yeah. And just because your CPAs go up doesn't mean your media buyer in-house is doing something wrong or your agency's doing something wrong. It can, but it could just mean that you have broken outside of the low-hanging fruit and you got to start going hard. So look at profitability. Look at, and not just profitability now, but projection profitability too, which is huge. So.
But I got to go.
I like it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I got to go.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. Please go rate and subscribe the podcast, whether it's good or bad. We want to hear from you because we always want to make this podcast better. If you want to get in touch with me or give me any direct feedback, please go follow me and get in touch with me. I am at the Trevor Crump on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we will see you next week.